Uh, BK, are you ready on the recording? Um, just give me a heads up when you have started. Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining Index Office Hours. Today we have quite a special agenda. We will be talking about the newest blog posts, which include the new foundation mandate. And Nick, team lead at the Graph Foundation, will start by setting the stage and talking about the new foundation mandate. So I'll throw it right over to him. Thank you.
Slim, can you guys hear me? Great. Well, as Slim said, this is a super important Indexer office hours. There's a lot of information that's going to come from the foundation team today and some updates that some of you may not be familiar with. My job today, in sort of the 10 to 20 minutes I have at the beginning here, I'm going to try to leave as much as I can for my colleagues, is to provide some context and some overview of where we're presently at and how we got here. I'm going to speak quite candid today and try as hard as I can to kind of provide the level of transparency that the community expects. And I joined an Indexer office hours. I don't know how long ago it was. It feels like 2 weeks ago, but it might have been a couple months ago, where we discussed some other things, and I shared, I think, new information at that time, and plan to do in the same spirit similar things today. So first thing is, for those of you who don't know, I took over the lead role for the foundation in January 2025. Prior to that, I was just sort of an ecosystem guy in charge of some marketing and growth stuff, and was running a podcast. And yeah, I had rose-colored glasses about some of the things that were going on in the graph, because I just didn't have a ton of information. And as you can imagine, as I got put into this new role, I learned a lot of new information, and a lot of my understanding and the mandate that I had personally in that role changed. So when I moved into the role, I sort of had this operational and budget whiplash, I would say. And what I mean by that is more than 50 cents of every dollar the foundation sort of had for funding was going to core devs, and a lot of those core dev agreements were set to expire soon. And we had this question of, like, can we continue to fund a multi-core dev ecosystem? Um, those of you that have gone back and read the blogs and have a calculator know that those were sizable multi-year investments, right? So I'm not disclosing anything shocking here by saying it was definitely those core dev agreements greater than $150 million. So that represented a huge investment from prior leadership and early decisions at the Graph. But because of changing market dynamics, competitive landscape changes, macroeconomics, geopolitical, there was a lot of things going on that made the financial sort of budget commitment to that model untenable. In addition to that, as close of a relationship as I had with all the core devs, and sort of continue to have, there was operational misalignment. It was really hard to get all these different core dev teams pointed in the same direction. And I think the early days of the Graph, we fostered core dev autonomy, right? So maybe early leadership was like, you just go find the best teams, and you cut them loose and you let them sort of work on the things that they want to do. We did some roadmaps over the years, but by and large, the core devs were used to working autonomously, hopefully anchored to a roadmap. And so what I decided to do, I worked hand in hand with Pedro, who was leading, that core dev relationship at the time. We started working on, okay, we know we can't, from a budget perspective, continue to support a multi-core dev ecosystem. We know we have some core dev agreements that don't expire for a certain period of time. How do we make the best use of the remaining time we have with those core devs, and just make sure we get as much of a value exchange as we can, or an ROI? So we started working with the council to formulate a plan to organize and realign core devs. We started a task force at the council level. We met many times and kind of came up with some hypotheses on how to do that. There was a R&D retreat with the core devs in Chicago early last year where we tried in a strong way to get aligned with core devs. Things seemed like they were going pretty well here. It seemed like we had directional alignment. We had created some transparency about the foundation's unwillingness to renew core dev grants, and so we just wanted to make the most time that we had. But post Chicago, things fell apart. And this is a topic for another conversation someday. But there's a lot of factors that went into that. But it just didn't work. We couldn't, even after working with the council, even after working with the core devs, drive that alignment. And I'm not pointing fingers all outward. I mean, I think there's things that I could have done better at that point in time as well to drive that alignment. But by and large, it just didn't work. So now the foundation was faced with a precarious situation. We had core devs whose contracts were going to expire. We had budget constraints that meant we weren't going to be able to go out and sort of repeat that model. And we could get alignment and drive some directional cohesion. So at and around this time, there was it became quite vogue in the industry for other protocols and projects to announce labs partnerships. I can't remember like what the one at the time that sort of triggered my thinking. I can't remember if it was Polygon or something like that. But there were these announcements on X about we're launching a labs partnership or spinning up a lab. So we started thinking at the foundation level that was probably the next best thing. Allocate our resources to one external team, designate them as a labs partner, and slowly but surely unwind these core dev agreements, get super focused. I would argue that multi-core dev model created a situation where we lost some of that innovation velocity and that shipping velocity. So we were excited about outsourcing that to a close team that would be the labs designation. And just to kind of set the record straight as well, we knew at the time the foundation couldn't be that labs entity itself. We weren't sort of constructed in that way in terms of personnel. And we felt like there were just better team options available within the ecosystem. And we really didn't have the support of the council at that time to sort of go it our own way, right? So we were good with it. As you can imagine, you build a list of potential partners, right? Some of those already exist within the ecosystem. There was a couple that existed outside of the ecosystem, and you start evaluating who would be a good, solid labs partner. It won't be surprised to anybody here that EdgeNode clearly was the front runner. A lot of our core dev teams we respected greatly and we wanted to work with, but when it came to pedigree, institutional knowledge, roots, and sort of that founding mentality, EdgeNode was the clear labs partner to work with. And so around this time, I entered into conversations with EdgeNode leadership about formalizing a labs agreement partnership with the foundation and EdgeNode. And that transpired over many months. And again, no surprise, I made a couple mistakes along the way that I think caused frustration on the EdgeNode side. Full disclosure, I felt the same. There was a couple points where I felt pretty frustrated. But I think we cleared the air. We were actually back in New York for, I forget the name of the Chainlink event that was back there. But we were back there, and there was a quick huddle with me and some execs at EdgeNode, and we cleared the air. I owned all my mistakes. We clarified a little bit of what had happened there, and we got realigned on negotiating this potential labs partnership. While that's all going on, I'm working with the council, I'm working with my team, and we're all aligned that, like, yeah, this is given our situation and the needs of the ecosystem, this is a good decision. Long story short, a couple more weeks or a couple months go by, and I go to San Francisco for the Graph's annual birthday party at the House of Web3, and I again met with EdgeNode execs in conference room there and just kind of said, what are we going to do? It was coming to the end of the year. It was time to make some 2026 forecasts and commitments from a budget and product planning strategy. And at that time, EdgeNode communicated that it wasn't a good time to enter into a labs partnership. So I won't go into the details of what was shared. I'm definitely not cynical of it. It was reasonable. I understood it. and it just didn't make sense. So I had a council meeting the very next day. I notified the council that Edgenode did not want to proceed with a labs partnership. And then me and my team at the foundation, we got to work on some strategy planning. So we P0'd what we're going to do, because if you're keeping score here, we basically said we can't proceed with a multi-core dev model anymore, and that our strongest sort of labs option wasn't an option anymore. And so we had to hustle as the foundation team to get together, align, and figure out what we were going to do in 2026. So we met several strategy sessions. We were communicating, I think, very effectively with the council, and we basically leveraged the launch of Horizon and what that upgrade meant for the future of the graph, all the work that went into that, and all the things that that sort of would enable for the protocol. We leveraged that as a centerpiece of the technical roadmap that some of you will recall was published in February of 2026. So we, as a foundation team, for the first time, I believe, in the history of the graph, actually created a roadmap somewhat in isolation. We put our best minds together. We met as a team many times throughout those kind of holiday weeks leading up into 2026 and a little bit afterwards. And we created what we felt like was the most sensible roadmap given the situation we were in. And we were excited about it. And we felt like, again, given the circumstances, this was a super effective and optimistic move. Before we published that roadmap, we did work with the council and we did share it with core devs. And so we tried to get some feedback, and we tried our best to take comments and adjust the plan. So we published the roadmap in February. It was part one of a two-part series. And shortly after publishing it, as you folks know, there was some criticism of the roadmap. So there were people who didn't really like it and were critical of it. So with fidelity to the foundation's roadmap, we want to do what's in the best interest of the graph ecosystem and the network. We invited dissenters to sort of present their ideas or get in front of the council. And it was at this time that Edgenode had presented sort of an alternative plan to the foundation's roadmap. So we invited Edgenode, after a couple of meetings with them, to come to the council and present their vision. Their vision included a product thesis, as well as a renewed exploration of a labs partnership. So my team, we had a little bit of whiplash there. We committed to this February roadmap. We were super excited about it. We were doing, some relationship management with the core devs that were still within the ecosystem. We were doing budget planning, resource allocation. So we had to sort of pause a little bit there on that momentum, just to account for the fact that the roadmap was in question, and that we were going to give Edgenode the opportunity to present to the council. So Edgenode presented, council had some deliberation. Council said, this seems like a good opportunity to kind of enter into some additional negotiation with Edgenode and see if we can come to terms. So the council asked the foundation to continue these negotiations with Edgenode, pause our roadmap, so to speak, from a perspective of like resource investment and other things, and focus on negotiating a labs deal with Edgenode. We did that. So we entered into a multi-month, multi-stakeholder negotiation process. We had members of the council there, members of the foundation there, and we had, of course, Edgenode there. There were many, many sessions. Edgenode put in a ton of time and effort into that. They worked hard. I think the council members who were on that task force assigned to this negotiation gave us a ton of time that they weren't sort of required to do. And I know for a fact that my team worked, incredibly hard to show up to those things. It was hard. It was hard. There's a lot of legacy debt at the graph, meaning, there's culture and ideology and budget and all these different sort of debts that come to the table in a situation like this. But I think all parties were negotiating in good faith. After many sessions of negotiations, Edgenode fashioned a final proposal for council review, and they submitted that for council vote. Council again deliberated on it, had questions. There was back and forth, and ultimately voted no on the EduNode Labs proposal. So that set in motion everything that we're going to sort of talk about here today. So the first thing that it set in motion was in speaking with EduNode following the council vote, it became clear that a lot of the resourcing that EduNode has provided to the protocol for all these years, um, they wanted to push off to the foundation. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, they were providing a service and have been funding those services for a lot of years. And they just felt as an outcome of a vote like this and some of the directional um, implementation, that those things belonged at the foundation. So we, in the foundation, started working with EduNode on continuity and transition of some of those things to the foundation. In addition to that, it meant that the foundation's roadmap was sort of back on the table and it needed to get reinvigorated. So the foundation shortly afterwards published part 2 of our 2-part series on the roadmap, and we've reawakened that plan. A lot of things have changed since February, so we took the opportunity to revise some of our thinking and do a little bit more collaboration with the council and others. And we published part 2 of that um, blog series last week. For those of you that didn't read it, it articulated a new mandate at the Graph Foundation where we're going to take more direct ownership and responsibility for things related to product, protocol, network. I mean, some of that's just part and parcel with the fact that we're taking on some things from EduNode. And now, without a multi-core dev environment, we're going to have to step up into some more product and market business development type responsibilities. So the blog post tagged a couple specific things that I'll mention here. I'm doing good on time, and I think I'm just about done. So as I said, we're going to take more direct ownership. We're going to be less of a passive treasury manager to more of a labs-like entity. So the original mandate of the foundation, of course, we tried to be a credibly neutral steward, just responsible for managing treasury and grants and ensuring third parties could come within the ecosystem and contribute. But that model is going to change with this new direction where we'll take on more of that responsibility and be less passive with sort of grant funding and more direct ownership. In addition to that, we're going to have to onboard some in-house capacity and skill. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be taking some things over from EduNode, and that will require personnel. So we unfortunately, we lost and had to shave down some of our foundation team to make room for new personnel that we'll be bringing on for network and protocol support. We're ramping those efforts up, and we'll have more to report in future sessions. But we're doing that as well as budget. So, as I said, EduNode had a cost associated with providing maintenance and upkeep of the network. Now the foundation will absorb those costs, and so that also required some budgeting agility. As part of our new mandate to drive growth and to take on these new responsibilities, one of the first things we did was propose a GIP to redirect 20% of annual issuance to the foundation. This is probably, to some people, relatively controversial. All I can say as team lead is, number one, these funds are necessary to give momentum to our new mandate, and they will be used to grow and support the network and protocol. No one over here is, getting a new car or getting a fancy bonus. In fact, it's sort of heading the other direction. But those funds we will treat with transparency, and they will go to the growth and support of this new mandate. Those funds as well will be overseen by the council, so those aren't sort of like off-book funding that no one ever gets to see. We're still accountable to the council, and that money will be part of our annual budgeting process and our quarterly and monthly accounting reviews. So we'll work through that and support our expanded in-house operational responsibilities and new mandate. We did make a couple changes on our team in terms of this new mandate. So Pedro, which some of you already know. Pedro's been around forever. He's changing from his core dev PMO role to head of product. So that'll put us in a good position to drive product velocity. He's going to present on some of that today. And then Orion's going to change from his present role to head of protocol and network. So as you can imagine, Orion's going to be getting some new colleagues as we build this continuity and transfer plan with Edge and Node, whereby we can bolster and strengthen our mandate to support the network. And we'll have a tech team and some different things that we'll announce, as I said earlier. Other highlights here that are super important from that blog post, of course, is product acceleration. Whether you're sort of in agreement that the foundation and this new direction is the right one or not, I highly doubt anybody here holds the position that product velocity and innovation isn't really critical to the future of the graph. We certainly believe that, so we feel like with a smaller operational surface and a more focused team with all the resourcing, we can start doing a lot of important things with relationship to product, and Pedro's going to talk a little bit about that later. There's a couple other things in that blog post that I think are important to click on. One is, we're not blind to how the market landscape has changed. Early in the graph years, right, it was a dev-focused protocol, and that was sort of our only target persona. But with the evolution of regulation and the introduction of enterprise and institutional users, it's clear that we need to have an open mind and be more competitive with that user group, as well as the emergence of AI and agentic applications. And so we have identified new personas that we want to target and make sure that the graph can deliver value towards. We also want to return to stronger fidelity to revenue and value passing through the network, and making sure that indexers and the community participate in the value growth of the graph. So that'll impact what the foundation does, for example, with chain integrations. And we want to make more efficient our economic ecosystem as well. So some of you have been tracking the rewards eligibility oracle, our new liquid staking initiative, as well as DIPs or direct indexer payments. These things all sort of point in the direction of greater economic alignment and pass through to the network. And lastly, we're committed to being more transparent and communicating more regularly. The foundation historically has been in an awkward spot. We were coordinating and trying to coordinate with core devs who had their own initiatives and roadmaps and things, and it got difficult sometimes and a little noisy to create a seamless, cohesive message. But with this new mandate, I think we'll be successful in doing it. I went 1 minute over, but I'm going to pause here and throw it back over to Orion. Apologies for that additional minute.
No worries, and thank you so much for a very thorough and transparent overview of what has been going on. As you can imagine, we've been itching to get going on a direction, and I'm very excited about having staked out that course and now spending my time as head of protocol and network going forward on making sure we can execute on our plan. And I want to double tap on one of the items that Nick also touched on, as he mentioned, with that new mandate, we do need to scale up our team across areas that we haven't really been strong at before, including protocol engineering, infrastructure, full stack engineering. So we'll be a much more engineering focused and execution focused team. And we will come back with more updates as we onboard these team members. But I can say already, I'm very, very excited about who we are currently talking with, and it will be an all-star team that I will be incredibly lucky and happy to work with going forward. So can't wait to announce who that team will be and how that will look going forward. I want to touch on a little bit on where we are thinking in the short term of what we can do to solidify our current position. We are using the name Catalyst for our plan, and it's split into two phases. One is the reset, where we focus on everything that is on the table right now, but that we are not currently capitalizing on. And I will be leading some of that effort. And the phase two of the Catalyst will be everything that we can work towards: new products, new markets, and new data services, and so on. So that's something that Pedro will be leading, and he will be talking a little bit more about that coming up. And as for phase one, one of the key parts, of course, is continuity of our current data service, its indexes, and its current users. That is a key part of what we are spending time on now. We also want to create a data service for chain integrations themselves, so that we can funnel and meter that revenue as and capture it as ecosystem revenue. It's currently representing more than half of the value that we generate, but it's not captured on the protocol level. It's something that is captured with each individual team that is working on integration, and we want to move that to the foundation, so we can create the network effects of working with chains on multiple data services, as well as being able to funnel it all through one data service. At the same time, we are also already working with new data service providers that either enable new data services, such as streaming capabilities, but we're also working with gateway operators that can expand our distribution network and increase traffic on existing data services. One of which is testing it on the network already. They're already working with some indexes that are receiving queries via this new gateway operator. And this is a new way of a new approach to people that were, or entities that were previously thought of as competitors to the graph, and we can now turn that around and think of these as new providers and new venues for growth. As Nick has mentioned, there is one controversial one GIP that some people may find controversial. I am myself involved with indexes. I know how tight the bottom line is for indexes in the current market. So it is intentionally launched at the same time as we are launching 3 different initiatives to improve economic efficiency. One is the liquid staking initiative. That one went live for yesterday. We are shortly making a forum post about it, where delegators can delegate and get a revenue generating token, liquid token, an STGRT token, and we can direct those delegated funds in such a way that it improves incentive alignment. We can coordinate directly with indexes to ensure that indexes that are providing a high value on the network can be part of that liquid staking. Second of all, we are launching the rewards eligibility oracle with its planned minimum eligibility criteria. We are launching that nowish, and we may be launched already, or maybe in like an hour. The protocol team is currently working on it, but it will be by the end of the day that will go live. So I highly recommend that everyone on this call do bookmark the current rewards eligibility Oracle dashboard. Make sure you check if you are eligible. This one will be updated with more features as we go. But that will already be able to reclaim 15.2% of indexing rewards that are currently going to indexes that are not meeting the minimum criteria of serving one query 5 days in a 28-day rolling period. And we intend to aggressively tighten those criteria. If we increase to around 17% uptime and 20 query producing subgraphs, we will be able to reclaim another 11.8% of indexing rewards. So that's a total of 27%. Sorry, 27%. And that's already more than the issuance redirect. And over time, there's also other we also plan to make those criteria more dynamic and based on potentially based on stake and like more dynamic criteria. Lastly, we continue to be full steam ahead on the direct indexing payments. Today, together with the liquid staking initiative, with the rewards eligibility Oracle going live, we will also deploy the plumbing for the direct indexing payments. So that will be ready to be enabled when that's ready, and that's also part of why we are planning to have the chain integration as a separate data service. Some of that can go directly to indexes to pay for syncing subgraphs and tying those rewards more directly to the work delivered on the network. So, and one of the key parts of this migration is that we do want to migrate the current upgrade indexer and the studio to the network so that indexers can earn rewards by serving those subgraphs and by and by syncing subgraphs on chains that are currently not having indexing rewards. So I will pause there a bit. Is there any question specifically on the three initiatives to improve the economic efficiency, or on the innovation allocation, or on the chain integration data service before we move into Pedro's part? Let's see. So I think I think on the technical side, I don't think there's any questions, but I see there's some questions that we definitely should circle back to and address before the end of the call. But I think we should move on to Pedro, as that may also give some insight in where we intend, what direction we intend to take, and thus also how that issuance proposal, or what that issuance proposal can help fund. So, Pedro, I'll throw it over to you.
All right. Hey, folks. So I had to restart. I think I lost your last couple of seconds there, Ariane, but I had my name, so I guess I'm up, right? And you can see my screen?
We can see your screen, and yeah, full speed ahead.
Yeah, I had to restart permissions issues. I couldn't really screen share before. All right, so let's see. Yeah, Adena and Nick they've already shared the context here. So I'm just going to go straight to what we're doing when it comes to this Project Catalyst, specifically focused on product. As mentioned before, indeed, the most important thing right now for us is to ensure continuity on this transition and make everything stable. And that alone is a massive project, as you can imagine. And here we're talking about ensuring continuity on the subgraph service business and making the studio network powered through mechanisms like DIPS that EdgeNode had started before. So we'll get that across the finish line and hopefully make the studio finally 100% powered by the Graphs network, which is obviously you indexers. And none of this is possible, nor is there anything I'll say next without an in-house technical team, and that's something that we are working very hard currently as well. Obviously, I should say here that all of these continuity is only possible through good collaboration with the EdgeNode team, and so far everything has been pretty smooth. So I just want to shout out the team. I see a few members here. It's been great, and hopefully we'll get this done quickly without any disruption if things continue. So thanks, y'all. Now, in parallel, and I believe Odin has already touched on a few of these items, we are focusing on product growth and do a little bit different things when it comes to the business. On the short term, I should have had this in the different order, but let me just start by the last bullet item. Again, I didn't have mentioned this before. We are indeed now working with, well, let's just say we are looking at the Graphs network not just as a thing for consumers, people for developers mainly and data consumers to use, but instead make the Graphs network as a platform and as a backend for what we previously considered to be, let's say, centralized competitors. So we instead are trying to work with some of them and have them use the Graphs network as is to then expand the data coverage on their own platform by either running a gateway themselves or just tap into existing ones. So that is something that we've been wanting to do for a while, and we believe it's a low effort, low risk and low engineering effort. And we have some nice case studies here and success stories we'll be able to share soon. But yeah, so this is something we're focusing on. I won't talk about the chain integrations as a data service. Ariane just mentioned it. I'll just mention the memory for AI. This is indeed something that's been, let's say, in like privately launched. It uses the subgraph service as is. So it's not like we're building a new tech stack, or it just uses the graphs network as is, but it focuses on yeah, how we can store and retrieve memory within code harnesses and most specifically personal agents like Hermes and OpenClaw and that sort of thing. We'll be able to talk more about this. We're still experimenting. Everything is new. We couldn't really do anything with this because we didn't have a need, like a technical team to fully own this. So this was like a side project, but we now intend to fully launch it on the Graphs network and work with you guys, indexers, on on the go to market there. This should be coming very, very soon. Then separately, also in the works already is us working with, or rather, I should say, following the Ethereum, um, like following the roadmap of Ethereum and where institutions are going next, and where we're seeing already some proven demand with some paid use cases. We're looking at privacy and confidentiality to enable some of these use cases that financial institutions need and are now embracing. So we are working already with a few groups, and hopefully we'll be able to tap into some POCs and MVPs that different teams are working on. And we're trying to position the Graphs network very early in this new era, let's say. And as I have on the slide, own this independent auditing layer to enable entities like auditors to fully audit on-chain data through a independent and neutral network like ours, and again with the existing technologies we've been building for the last couple of years. So things that are still in planning and road mapping, obviously this all requires a strong technical team, which we're building, as I said, and there's good progress there. But indeed, we do want to make the current Subgraph Studio multi-product aware, or have start to enable this multi-product experience. There are a few things that's on the roadmap, that's been on the roadmap we want to finish. So the Substreams data service is one. We've had, we were very close to shipping it before the core dev grant agreements ended, but we can now resume this. We do have the support from the Streaming Fast team here as well, which is great. And right now we are exploring how we can bring the hosted syncs experience. If you haven't seen what it is, you can check out their docs. But we're trying to work out a way to bring those natively to the graph.com too, specifically within this studio multi-product experience. We do think it's a great way to complement the subgraph service and how developers and consumers typically consume data from the graph today, without having to worry about the actual tech stack or the whole data pipeline themselves. It's more of a managed service, but that does read from the Graphs network. And for that, we obviously need the Substreams data service. The other is a long time coming, and I know many indexers have talked about this. It's the RPC service. Yes, we're coming up with a plan there finally. And then we still, the foundation need to finish this subgraph service, the transition itself, because like I said, we'll have to operate most of these components and run the business. So that's a big project. But in parallel to this, we are thinking of and designing like what we're calling the next gen blockchain data products and services. I have another slide on this that'll potentially explain what this thing will or might be in the future. And whenever we launch this, we want to introduce a new pricing model. So hopefully when we launch a new product, we can redefine the current pricing model we have to be more of like maybe a subscription type of subscription type of pricing model, and that'll work well with whenever we have different products. We're not going to ship this with this subgraph service as is. Then lastly, I should say that the council has shown an interest in working alongside with us on the product strategy. So we're spinning up a new steering committee that'll start tomorrow. And hopefully the foundation and the council will now be working with this subset, let's say, of the council on a product strategy. Let's say just like move a lot faster and just help us with just validate our ideas and plans. Okay, so in a nutshell, if you look at the timeline, first, the most important thing, secure the fast shipping team. Like I said, in parallel, we are, ensuring protocol continuity, collecting revenue, position ourselves as the audit layer for these privacy and confidentiality sort of use cases I just mentioned. And then that's when we can start focusing on the growth aspect. And like I said, we already have a good case study we'll be able to talk about very soon. Once we get the team, we can ship the AI memory data service, and there's a lot of work to be done there. We have to work with a bunch of, a lot of integrations with different products and agents and SDKs and whatever else is out there. We're not just going to ship it. There's a lot of work that goes into that. This RPC and pricing structure changes. And then as we experiment new data and we enter the AI with a new product, that's where we'll start measuring where the demand really is and start figuring out, or rather redefine the roadmap based on data and where the market is and which data products are actually getting traction and where the money is. So that is the current snapshot of the product path, as I'm calling it on this slide. And I think that's all I have now. Yeah. I don't know. Did I go over 10 minutes? I think I was 12 minutes at the end. Is that okay? Oh, I think think we can do
All
Q&A now.
good. We have the rest on yours, your part, and then Q&A. So take the time if you need it.
Yeah, well, I am done. I think I'm happy. Let me just take a look at the chat, see if there's anything. I lost the chat. Right. Okay.
And I also wanted to address what Mickey is highlighting here, and I appreciate the confidence in the foundation from Mickey, and the same goes for Edunode as well. I believe either team would do a much better job with communicating if it was just a single team. And the challenge here is, this is a very complicated ecosystem, sometimes too complicated, and that's definitely, regardless of which team is working on a particular project, it does indeed slow down communication and make these things a lot more complicated than they need to be. And I have faith that the new direction that we are taking the graph and that Edunode is going, I think this is the best for both parties. Like, it will streamline things on both ends. So.
Yeah, and I should say that since we're talking about, since I see so many Edunode people on the call and we're all commenting, this transition really is a big project. And as you can imagine, Edunode has been doing a great job for the ecosystem when it comes to like tech support, like so many different things they were touching on. And with such a big team, we are now taking ownership of all of these while we're scaling out the team. So it's not going to be an easy feat. But yeah, just want to acknowledge the Edunode team for owning all of these and for the good work they've been doing there. It's sometimes difficult to understand everything that the team has been working on, or at least have visibility into all of those things they touch on. Moving that over now to the foundation is, yeah, it's going to take a while. I appreciate their support so far.
Yeah, +1 to that. +1 to that. And I also just want to say to everyone here, as we are moving into more of a Q&A section, feel free to unmute or post in chat, and we'll try to address the questions as they come. sure if Edinode wants to comment. I see Mindshal asked about what happens with AMP now. And then there's also a question around budgeting report for grants or also foundation member salaries. Mickey or Ford, is there any comment from the Edinode side on what happens with AMP, or is that something you can speak to? Or
well, we had a proposal about, how that would work on the network, along with a lot of stages around a data lake, AI, focused incentives, inference layer. I was really excited about it. I presented that to the council. Not clear why it was rejected, I guess, to me. But that's how the outcome was. So I think we will have to be taking AMP outside the network now, unfortunately.
And the second question to Nick on reporting and like Mindshal is highlighting grants and potentially like foundation salaries. What are our thoughts around like reporting going forward?
Yeah, so I'm happy to ask the council and speak with my colleagues about reporting our salaries and making those public. I don't think we ever have, so it's just a question. There are contracts involved in this, right? So there's employment contracts, and I just have to make sure that if I publicly report things, that I'm not violating something at the agreements level. But yeah, if people want to know how much we're making, I'll get the authorization if I can do it, and we'll publish.
I'm just going through the chat to see if there's anything that is unanswered. Council members, feel free to foundation member, feel free to unmute and raise any questions that you see being unanswered, and help me out in that. Okay, so Mickey had a question about the personas that we will be selling services to. We mentioned enterprises a few times. Mind sharing more? I can just briefly touch on it, and then I'll throw it over to Pedro. But overall, the foundation thinks that we should move away from B2C and more to B2B, to B, and directly B2B and B2B2C. So that is through, for example, working closer with chains on offering services to their users, working closer with distribution partners such as new gateway providers to offload so that they can offload their infrastructure costs to the network, and in turn they bring that those distribution channels and the network usage to the usage to indexes on the network. And we also plan to work directly with institutions as well as partners that can distribute to other institutions. So yeah, we don't believe it's scalable to only work on a B2C level, and we will be focusing more on the B2B side going forward. So Mickey is following up with what you mean with partners who will distribute to other institutions. So that may be entities that are working. Oh, sorry, Pedro, do you want to?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to speak before. Maybe I can. Sorry, Adrian, if you want to finish your thought, please do. But I can comment next.
Yeah, so this would be institutions that are working on data pipelines as part of a larger solution for other institutions, and either that data pipelines or audits or other services to other institutions, and we are looking into what we can do on that side. So.
Yeah, sorry. No, the moment Chris mentioned Mickey's question was, I noticed I was trying to speak, but I was muted. Sorry about that. Just to add on to what Ariane said, specifically Mickey, I don't think I mentioned enterprises in my slide, but I did mention institutions. And what I was trying to say is that we are seeing this trend that institutions are now adopting public chains when it comes to moving confidential finance onto these open and public chains. And which, that was something that Ethereum had on the roadmap for a while too. We're now seeing for profit companies handling these sort of demos and POCs and establishing in commercial agreements with some of these financial institutions that are indeed trying these new use cases with new primitives on chain, and we're just trying to position the graphs early there. So specifically, confidential systems will need a party, ideally a neutral party, to serve these records that, for instance, auditors and regulators might need to check it against. And we don't believe that we require a fancy new tech stack or data product for these. I think the Graphs Network is well positioned to do so, or some of our tech, right? Even if not directly through the Graphs Network, but we are trying to position the Graphs Network in these use cases and in these groups quite early, so we can capture some of that value and not lose the train as we've done multiple times in the past. So that's just that complements what Ariane said, and I don't know if your question was related to what I had on my slide. Yeah, like I said, that's the thing. SLAs, due diligence, SOC 2. I didn't touch on any of that. I didn't talk about how the Graphs Network will support those use cases. I don't think it can. I've said this multiple times. That needs to be different. Do you have an example of a regulator who has expectancy in there already? Or is that a hypothesis you need to prove in? Like I said, there are some. You can look at. Let me just link. The Ethereum Foundation had a bunch of task forces in the past. They've now spun up a bunch. There are some of non-profit, others are for-profit, like these ETH systems, and they've built a really nice. Well, they have data products, and they're now experimenting some of these use cases they've mapped out with some institutions. We are not directly yet working with them, but we are working with the ETH systems and trying to position trying to get the graph in there. Same thing with the Nethermind team. They're also exploring bring some of those use cases to public and open blockchains like Ethereum, and there are some large scale pilots happening. And yeah, we're talking with them basically. But that doesn't answer, and it's not an answer to your question on what if these new personas need SLAs, due diligence, and SOC 2, that sort of thing. The Graphs Network is not well positioned to not yet, I don't think, serve those customers. So, yeah. See, this change, Mark Andre, which change specifically? Oh, from the Upgrade Indexer and other protocol infra as well as yes. Yes, and like I said, that's the big project we're all working on, banking on what Edgenode that started with DIPS. We're just trying to take that across the finish line and do the coordination work with indexers to properly migrate over time those chain and the query volume to the Graph network. I do see Vince's question. It was approved. I think it's a good. I mean, we've talked about this transparency and everything we just mentioned, but it is important to understand that we're taking on this massive project, like I said multiple times, and we need a team. Like Örjan and I, BK, Nick, we can't do it alone. That requires funding to ensure continuity and no disruption. So we had to work closely with the council very fast to get this GIP out. Yeah. And I think Nick had mentioned before that this thing was drafted months ago and then stopped. But he's not on the call, so I will not speak for him. Okay, trying to break the silence a little bit because it's stressing me out. Just to address Mickey's message, because you guys are all typing on sharing the roadmap, like like what is theoretical and what is tangible and near-term things that can happen with a lower barrier. Yes, Mickey, there's a lot of assumptions and unknowns indeed, but I was trying to capture this in my slide. We will have to validate where like if there is indeed demand and just iterate fast, like ship something concrete fast, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So it has to be gated, it has to be measured, and yeah, but we'll make it clear. Like roadmaps now are even more fluid than they were years ago, especially in the age of AI. So it's not just about having a fixed roadmap or a plan, in my opinion, but rather to instead be nimble in how to validate your assumptions and be able to pivot quickly if needed. And that's something we intend to do as we're entering this startup mode with the in-house technical team. And Mickey, I'll just say, because I know the work you're doing at Edgenol with the enterprise, I do encourage you to check out ETH Systems if you haven't seen what they're doing. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, especially their repo on GitHub. They have a map repo. It's called Map. It's a weird name, but it's related to all the, yeah. Anyway, just check it out. I think it's pretty cool. Oh, is that another call? Okay, yeah, okay. Sorry. I guess so. I was about to drop because I do need to be away from keyboard for a little bit, but yeah, I'm gonna jump. Okay. Thank you guys. I'll see you around.
Okay, I'll jump in to moderate here. Appreciate all the comments and questions. I think at this point we've addressed most of the questions, but I'm sure there are still many more that we'll have in other channels and things like that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the call. Feel free to send us more questions and things like that. Obviously, everybody's in Discord, so we'll be able to chat there. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for all the questions. Talk to you soon.